Hello. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Elaine Weller, and I'm part of the talent management team here at DWD. We are very excited to have you join us today to share with you information about our administrative law judge position. Just a few housekeeping items. We're going to keep everyone on mute just to keep that background noise to a minimum. And then if you have any questions, please go ahead and just put those in the chat. We will have a question and answer session at the end, so we'd like to collect those as we go along. And then we just want to say we are pleased to partner with Indiana Lawyer for this virtual job fair, and today we have Olivia with us. Olivia, do you have anything you would like to share with us at this time?
Yes, hi. I'm muted. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Olivia Covington, editor of the Indiana Lawyer newspaper. Like Elaine said, we're partnering on this webinar. We did this back in the summer, and we're happy to be here again. On behalf of myself, Indiana Lawyer, and Nate Feldman, who is our president and publisher, we're always happy to support the legal community. So thank you to the Department of Workforce Development for letting us be part of this again.
Thank you, Olivia. We're now going to hear from the Director of Appeals, Suzanne Manning, and she will provide us with an overview of the role of ALJ.
Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today, and thank you for the partnership that we have with the Indiana Lawyer. So we are seeking additional administrative law judges to conduct unemployment insurance appeals hearings for the Department of Workforce Development for pending unemployment insurance appeals and also pandemic unemployment assistance appeals. Our administrative law judges are required to be licensed attorneys in the state of Indiana, so we are seeking licensed attorneys. This does not mean that you have to reside in the state of Indiana. You must have an active license in the state of Indiana, but we are also seeking folks that can telework from other areas of the country if needed. So to summarize here, appeals hearings are conducted by ALJs, which again must be licensed attorneys. We do have the flexibility to work with local attorneys here to Central Indiana. We also have the ability to work with attorneys located around the state of Indiana or those in other parts of the country. So we do have a virtual file process that enables us to work with folks remotely in this environment. This is a fast-paced environment. The hearings are held quickly, and we do have a requirement that we would like decisions to be issued by the end of the week in which the case was heard. So for example, a case that had a hearing held Monday through Friday, there was an expectation that the ALJ issue a decision out to the parties by end of the week on Friday. Every single decision does require a written decision that goes out to the parties. The written decisions do include findings of fact and conclusions of law. And because of this requirement to issue the decisions in a timely fashion, this is something that is a fast-paced environment, and we expect those to be have experience writing those findings of fact and conclusions of law. Administrative law judges are not subject to the Code of Judicial Conduct. In order to maintain quality of review, though, we do have all of our initial decisions are reviewed by a member of management. So any new administrative law judge is assigned to a team manager, and that team manager will review their initial decisions to make sure that they are quality sound decisions and can meet the Department of Labor standards. There is also no burden of proof in unemployment insurance law. I believe that was removed back in 2014. So it is an interesting area of law. Most lawyers are used to operating in a world in which there is a burden of proof. However, there is no burden of proof in unemployment insurance benefits. And because this is a pro se environment, we want to make this pro se friendly. There is a duty to help develop the record. So judges affirmatively go forth and ask questions of the parties to develop the record to make sure that they can issue a sound decision. One last area that I wanted to touch on is confidentiality. Under statute, unemployment insurance appeals hearings are confidential. So regardless of whether judges are working remotely, out of state or in state, we would want to make sure that all of the confidential information pertaining to the claimants and the employers is kept confidential. So we have certain policies and procedures that we have to protect those and safeguard those. And those deal with making sure that any printed papers are kept in a locked and secure area, and then dealing with virtual files, different parameters surrounding those. We do have a clerical staff that will assist with processing and scheduling appeals. The clerical staff will schedule appeals based upon judges' availability. Judges are responsible for making sure that they enter their decision and physically marking up the file. So that means if there's documentary evidence that's admitted, they would be responsible for marking that up and making sure that it's part of the file. And lastly, I just want to touch on that every single one of these cases has a direct impact to Hoosiers. Each decision will directly impact and affect a claimant's eligibility and employer's tax liability. In addressing assignments of cases, cases are assigned based upon issue types. Not all judges are trained on all issues. So at the outset, I indicated that we are seeking administrative law judges to conduct both unemployment insurance appeals and pandemic unemployment assistance appeals. There are a variety of different issues that could occur for both unemployment insurance UI appeals and for pandemic unemployment assistance PUA appeals. And depending upon the issue that the judges are trained upon, we schedule those out based upon their availability. The number of cases in which a judge is assigned depends upon their availability to either be full-time or part-time. So we schedule our cases on a 3-week schedule, and we ask then, therefore, that judges provide their availability 3 weeks in advance so we can schedule those cases out. Part-time judges' availability would be based upon the number of hours that they would agree to work on their part-time availability. Full-time judges have more of a set schedule because it's based upon a 37.5-hour work week. When we start out training, administrative law judges are learning new issues, and so we do not start scheduling judges 100% on those issues. There is a ramp up to learn that issue sufficiently before we introduce a judge to a different issue. And then lastly, wanted to cover that our hearing schedule is balanced to allow time to write decisions. So as I mentioned earlier, we have an expectation that all hearings have decisions completed by week end. We balance out our hearing schedule, whether it be for full-time or part-time, to allow judges time to write their decisions during the week in which that hearing was held. We have some decision templates that we will be able to provide to new administrative law judges in the course of their training. So we have canned decisions that address the conclusions of law portion of the decision writing. And these canned decisions address only that specific area of law. So the administrative law judge will still need to write the findings of fact as it applies to that case and then analyze those findings to the law in their conclusions of law paragraph. Also, I wanted to mention that all of our hearings are recorded. The notices for the hearings go out with your name on it. It tells the parties who they will be having the hearing before, what time and date the hearing is scheduled to be. And then on the record, the administrative law judge will announce themselves as the person conducting the hearing. And then that decision then also goes out with your name on it. So just an overview, a program summary that we have here. Again, all appeals hearings must be heard by a licensed attorney. There is a flexibility to work with local attorneys and distance attorneys through the use of our virtual files. This is a fast-paced work environment with the requirement that the decisions be issued by the end of the week. So judges need to be comfortable writing findings of fact and conclusions of law. And lastly, administrative law judges are not subject to the Code of Judicial Conduct. Their decisions will be reviewed at first by management to ensure that we are meeting quality and Department of Labor standards. Our overview here is that there is no burden of proof. So judges have a duty to develop the record. We want to maintain the confidentiality of the claimants and the employers for both unemployment and pandemic unemployment assistance. So we have requirements and policies and procedures on how to maintain and keep that confidentiality. Lastly, we have clerical staff that will assist with scheduling cases around judges' availability. Judges are, however, the ones responsible for entering their decisions. And again, each and every hearing that a judge hears has a direct impact to a Hoosier. Up next is we have an overview of being a team manager. This is from Asia Funderburk, who is a current team manager with UI Appeals.
I came to the department in 2010 as an ALJ and heard cases primarily between claimants and employers regarding benefit eligibility. But not too long after doing that role, I moved up to the liability administrative law judge position, which is a different type of case law, body of law, wherein employers can challenge their liability for unemployment insurance contributions. And I did that role for about 5 years or so. And then I had resurfaced and come back to the department in a different capacity, and now I'm a team manager. So now I manage other administrative law judges that do benefit eligibility, and also now I've moved into managing administrative law judges who hear fraud cases and employer liability cases. So there's been a depth of experience that I've had here. It's great room for growth and improvement as an attorney here with the department, particularly even just in the appeals department. One of the things that I love about this job is I'm able to look back on the week and say, I completed all of my work for the week and I'm done. And you move on to the next week. So it doesn't really carry over into other weeks. So, you know, I think it's a good job if you're looking to help people. It's a good job if you like to get in and get things accomplished. And it's just a good position altogether. It's an interesting work, and the people that we work with are great too. Working for the state of Indiana, and particularly the Department of Workforce Development as an ALJ, has been a really rewarding experience for me, and I'd recommend it for anyone else who may be interested.
Thank you, Asia, for sharing your experience. And then next up, we have experience from Dave Remendini, who is a current part-time administrative law judge. You may know Mr. Remendini from his prior work experience at the Indianapolis Star, as well as the Indiana Supreme Court.
I think my role, most importantly, is to make sure that the case gets processed correctly, that everyone's rights are respected, and everyone gets a chance to have their say, and a chance to make sure that everything that they need to get on the record is on the record, and people have the ability to see the process and understand how it works. You're able to solve problems, and you're able to, through the testimony and through the questions you ask and through the evidence, you're really able to see very often that a mistake was just flat out made. I think sometimes people see the issues as you're asking them the questions, and by clearly writing the decisions that explain why you did what you did, it helps them understand the process, and they feel at least they were heard, and now they know why they got the answer they did, whether it was positive or not. One of the nice things about it for me, I'm semi-retired. I worked at the Indianapolis Star for 15 years as a reporter, and then at the Supreme Court for 20 years. And in those jobs, it was nice to be part of a family. And in this case, you're joining another kind of family. It's nice to be connected with a group again, to be part of a team. And so, if you've missed that, this would be the opportunity to get back into that.
Thank you for both Dave and Asia sharing their thoughts with us.
And now I'm just going to spend some time with you answering those questions on if you were going to be selected for this position. So as Suzanne said, we are looking to fill both part-time and full-time positions. Being a remote position, you can work out of state, though you do need to know all of our DWD employees are required to fill out those telework agreements, and then you will be required to show us a photo of where you'll be working so we can ensure that you're in a distraction-free work area. The salary for this position starts at $47,000, just a little bit more, but we do compensate you for additional work experience. You will be paid for your training hours as well as your work hours, and then you are paid for your set work schedule. And so if for some reason a hearing was canceled, you would still be paid for that time as you would be working on other work items. And then, as we have said, we need for you to be able to practice law in the state of Indiana. The work hours for this position are our core business hours with DWD, which is 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, Eastern Time. However, there is some flexibility after you go through training. And then if you need to adjust your time, you need to give a 3-week advance notice, and that is to help us avoid any continuances. For our part-time positions, we do need for you to work a minimum of 15 hours per week. And again, that would be the same work hours of Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30 Eastern Time. We do need for you to have a set schedule so that we would be able to make arrangements for when your cases would be. You will work with your supervisor to set that schedule, and each day you work, we need for you to work a minimum of 3 hours. And then the same as the full-time, if you need to adjust your days or hours, we need for you to give that 3-week advance notice for the continuances. Now, one thing for our out-of-state employees, you will be required to provide your own equipment, and we do not support Mac or Chromebook. For our in-state employees, you will be issued state equipment, but we would need for you to come the Friday before you start in order to pick up that equipment, and we will communicate with you prior to the pickup what hours would be available for that pickup. And then because you are working remotely, we do require for you to be hardwired into the internet using an Ethernet cable. DSL is not sufficient to support teleworking for us, and so we need to make sure that you have a broadband internet use of 10 megabytes per second for download speeds, 5 for upload speeds, and you can test your speeds at speedtest.net. And then for training, since it is virtual, those in-state employees that have state-issued equipment, their virtual training will be through Microsoft Teams. For our out-of-state employees, we will give you a link to a virtual desktop, and you will also use Microsoft Teams. We do require everybody to attend training with their camera on. If you do not have a camera associated with your computer, you are able to utilize a home personal phone or iPad so we can see you during the training while still attending the training utilizing your computer. And then training is 9 days in length. It is 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Attendance is required because we do have a live instructor. For part-time employees, this would be a time that you need to work full-time hours for that 9-day training. And then this is not CLE credit eligible. And then as far as our next steps, my team will be taking your email address that you used to register for this program. We will be emailing you a link to apply to the position. And then if selected, you would engage in our hiring process.
Hello, everybody. I'm Zoe. I'm a talent manager with DWD, and we just wanted to take some time today to answer some questions and thank everybody for tuning in. So we got some great questions from our audience during the webinar. For our first question, does each case go to a hearing?
No, not every case goes to a hearing. There could be a variety of reasons in which a case does not proceed to a hearing. The appellant does always have the opportunity to withdraw their appeal, in which case the hearing would not proceed to a hearing. Additionally, if the appellant is not able to be reached for the hearing scheduled date and time, it would result into a dismissal in which the hearing would not go forward. And there are sometimes cases in which it may be canceled if benefits administration is going to correct the determination such that it would be favorable to the appellant and resolve the appeal in that fashion.
Thank you. So for our next question, what if I have to miss a portion of the training?
I'm going to let Elaine respond to that one.
I was gonna say, it depends on what time and day you will be missing the training. We do record portions of the training, so you would be able to make up that time at a different date. However, since it is instructor-led, we do need attendance, and we say that it is mandatory. We have had to adjust start times based on pre-scheduled leave time and such. So just let us know in the hiring process, that talent management team, and we will work with Suzanne and her team to see what the best next steps are for you.
Great, thank you, Elaine. So for our next question, why are there so many positions open?
Sure. So due to the pandemic and the expanded unemployment compensation benefits under the CARES Act for both pandemic unemployment assistance and the pandemic extended unemployment compensation programs, there are additional more claims. And so we are still working at being diligent on that, but it just created a very high volume of claims that we're still working through.
Thank you, Suzanne. So for our next one, what happens if I'm unable to hear a case because of an illness?
Sure. So that happens from time to time. We certainly request that judges give us as much advance notice as possible if they have a change in their schedule or need to request off time for some type of appointment or even vacation day. But those last minute absences do occur. And we have a process in which we would send the scheduled judges' cases out for pickup. We have a great team of judges, and they do an excellent job of helping each other out. As Dave mentioned, this is a team environment, and judges are assigned to teams. So when we have folks that are absent or unable to hear a case, we do have a great job of other judges that will help you out and pick up that case in your last minute.
Perfect. So for our next question, are there any issues with me being a recent graduate?
None at all. We have a lot of recent graduates that are current administrative law judges. So there's no required prior attorney experience needed for this position.
Great. So for our next one, working remotely, how do we communicate with our supervisor?
Yeah, great question. So we have a variety of means of communication. So we have, there's always email and telephone, but a majority of our communication right now is over Microsoft Teams. So we have judges that prefer talking over Teams. You can see each other face to face in that environment, so it feels like an in-person conversation, which is nice. There are some folks that prefer to communicate over email, but whichever works, we have a variety of means of doing that. And then also we usually ask that we have like a standing one-on-one meeting just as new judges are getting into this and learning it, that they meet with their TM on a regular basis. And so they'll have those meetings at first, but then any type of communication from there on out, via email, Teams, or phone, we're open to all of those.
Perfect. And another additional question. So are the hearings completed through Microsoft Teams?
No, great question. Our hearings are completed through a telephone system that is through the computer. So it is not a typical telephone that you would, I'm not even sure what a typical telephone is nowadays, actually, but it's not, it's a telephone system that I think is somewhat likened over to voice over internet protocol. So judges have a headset and their hearings are conducted essentially through this phone system that we have. It's an application that we use.
Great. So for our next question, can I switch between full-time and part-time depending on other work that I may have?
So I think that would probably vary on what openings that we have. We are certainly always interested if any part-time judges want to switch over to full-time. That would be great. But as flexibilities go on, if people have other things that are going on in their life and they're currently full-time and they would like to go to part-time, we certainly entertain those questions as well.
Great. And then one more question. How much experience in unemployment insurance do you need to have to be successful in this role?
So we give you the training that you need to be successful in this. So you do not need to have any prior unemployment insurance knowledge prior to coming into this position. We will provide you all the necessary training to teach you up and make sure that you feel comfortable with the law and learn the law so you can rule on these decisions.
Great. Thank you so much, both Suzanne and Elaine. So to continue, if anyone has any additional questions, please feel free to email the talent management team at uitalentmanagement@dwd.in.gov, and we'll get those back to you as soon as possible. And that will also be the same email where you will receive that link that Elaine mentioned for further information on the positions. So that being said, again, thank you to everyone for attending, and thank you so much for our speakers.
Thank you.